Okay, so we all love our devices, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, who doesn't love just scrolling through their phone in bed? But what if that little habit is actually messing with our sleep way more than we realize?
That's a good question.
Like, we're diving deep today into the hidden world of EMF radiation and how it impacts our sleep.
It's a fascinating area. I think a lot of people don't realize all of the devices that we rely on every day, phones, laptops, even our Wi-Fi routers, they're all emitting these electromagnetic fields, EMF,
Right.
all the time.
So EMF is like this invisible energy field that's just surrounding us and our electronics all the time. So how is that actually affecting how we sleep?
So the type of EMF that we're talking about today is non-ionizing radiation, and that's different from the more dangerous ionizing radiation like X-rays. But even this everyday EMF, there's research suggesting that it's messing with our sleep, and it seems to be doing it in a couple of key ways.
Okay, I'm ready. Lay it on me. What's the connection?
So one of the biggest culprits is melatonin disruption. So our bodies rely on this hormone, melatonin, to tell us when it's time to go to sleep.
Right, so it's like our natural lights out switch, right?
Exactly, yeah. And it's primarily produced in darkness. But the problem is, research suggests that exposure to EMF, especially at night, can actually suppress melatonin production.
Oh, wow. So even if your room is like pitch black and your body's ready for sleep, the EMF from your phone that's right there could be keeping you awake.
That's what the research is showing. It's almost as if your phone is tricking your brain into thinking that it's still daytime.
And that's why we have those nights of tossing and turning and just staring at the ceiling, right?
Yeah, precisely. And it's not just about feeling tired or groggy the next day. Consistent sleep deprivation from this EMF exposure can actually contribute to more serious long-term health issues.
Like what kind of health issues?
Well, studies have linked chronic poor sleep to all sorts of things,
Yeah.
weakened immune system, and increased risk of obesity, even cognitive decline.
Okay, that is definitely making me rethink my bedtime phone habits. But it sounds like this whole melatonin disruption thing is just like the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, you're right. There's a lot more to it. Research is also suggesting that EMF exposure can lead to sleep disturbances beyond just the melatonin issues. People exposed to EMF before bed, they tend to experience more insomnia and report just poor sleep quality overall.
So you're saying you might eventually fall asleep, but you're not getting that deep restorative sleep that our bodies really need.
Exactly, yeah. People might toss and turn more, wake up frequently during the night, and just not reach those crucial deep sleep stages that are essential for feeling really refreshed and functioning at your best.
And then to make matters even worse, I've heard that EMF can even mess with our brainwave activity during sleep. Is that true?
It is. It's fascinating. We can actually see in studies how EMF exposure, particularly from devices like cell phones, affects our brainwave patterns during those crucial sleep stages, like deep sleep.
Wow. So instead of our brains just smoothly transitioning into deep sleep mode, the EMF is keeping us in this more shallow and alert state.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's like our brains can't fully disconnect and recharge.
Yeah.
And that obviously can have a huge impact on how we feel and function the next day.
Okay, this is all starting to sound pretty alarming. So we've got EMF messing with our melatonin levels, disrupting our sleep stages, altering our brain waves. I mean, is there anything else it's doing to us while we're trying to sleep?
Well, there's one more piece to this puzzle that's really concerning, and that's the impact on cortisol, which is our stress hormone.
Cortisol, isn't that the hormone that helps us wake up in the morning? Why would that be a problem at night?
Yeah, so cortisol levels are naturally higher in the morning to give us that energy to start the day. But ideally, cortisol levels should drop significantly in the evening to allow for relaxation and sleep. But studies are suggesting that EMF exposure can actually cause a spike in cortisol at night.
Wait, so instead of winding down and getting ready for bed, our body's getting hit with this jolt of stress hormones.
Yeah, exactly. It's like your internal alarm system is going off when it should be shutting down for the night. And that can make it incredibly difficult to fall asleep and stay asleep.
Okay, so we've got EMF disrupting our sleep hormones, messing with our sleep stages, altering brain waves, and now spiking our stress hormones. No wonder so many of us have trouble getting a good night's rest.
It really highlights the importance of being mindful of our EMF exposure, especially in the hours leading up to bed.
Right. Well, before we all throw our phones out the window and move to a remote cabin in the woods, let's talk about what we can do to minimize EMF exposure and protect our sleep.
Yeah, that's a great transition. There are, thankfully, some pretty simple but effective strategies that we can incorporate into our daily routines to protect our sleep.
Okay, good. I'm all ears because I definitely want to start sleeping soundly again.
All right, let's dive into that.
Okay, so we've established that EMF exposure at night is not really doing us any favors when it comes to sleep. But, I mean, let's be real. None of us are going to just ditch our devices completely, right?
Yeah.
Like, what can we actually do to minimize this impact?
Right. Well, I mean, the good news is there are some really practical strategies that we can all incorporate into our daily routines to protect our sleep.
Okay, perfect. Give us the lowdown. Where do we start?
So one of the simplest yet most effective things you can do is to establish a phone-free hour before bed.
So no more like scrolling through social media or checking those work emails right before I try to sleep.
You got it. It's all about those activities are keeping our minds buzzing, and the blue light from those screens really doesn't help. So try winding down with something a little more relaxing, like reading a book, maybe taking a warm bath, listening to some calming music.
That sounds so much more relaxing than staring at a screen.
Yeah.
I could definitely, I could get behind that. I could see how that shift alone could make a difference. What else? What else we got?
Another surprisingly effective tip is to simply turn on airplane mode at night.
Wait, really? Airplane mode can actually help with this.
Yeah, you might be surprised how much it actually helps. So when you turn on airplane mode, it disables the wireless connections on your phone, which then significantly reduces EMF emissions.
Oh, okay. So even if my phone has to stay on my nightstand, I should at least switch it over to airplane mode?
Exactly. Yeah, it's just a super quick and easy way to minimize your exposure throughout the night.
Right.
And speaking of your nightstand, if you keep your phone in your bedroom, it's a good idea to keep it at a distance from where you sleep.
Okay, how far are we talking here? Should I just banish it to the other side of the room?
Ideally, at least 3 to 6 feet away from your bed. You'd be surprised, even charging your phone near your head can create a pretty strong EMF field.
Wow, I had no idea. I usually charge my phone right next to my pillow.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it makes sense that distance would matter, right?
Absolutely. And while we're talking about distance, another thing to consider is using wired connections instead of wireless whenever possible.
Okay, so ditching the Wi-Fi and plugging my laptop directly into the Ethernet.
Exactly.
Got it. I think I can handle that.
And if you can't go completely wired, at least try to, turn off your Wi-Fi router at night when you're not using it.
I actually made the switch to a wired internet connection a while back, and I think I have been sleeping better. I don't know if it's like the reduced EMF or just a placebo effect, but hey, I'll take it.
That's great. It's those small changes that can make a big difference. It all adds up.
Okay, what about all of those EMF shielding products that I see advertised everywhere? Like, do those phone cases and the special blankets, do those things actually work? They always seem a little gimmicky to me.
Yeah, there are definitely a lot of products out there claiming to block or reduce EMF, but the research to support those claims is still pretty limited.
Okay.
More research is definitely needed.
So, it might be worth trying if you're really concerned, but don't expect miracles.
Yeah, that's fair. The best approach is to focus on the strategies that we know for sure are effective, like minimizing device use before bed and keeping a distance from your electronics while you sleep.
That makes sense. Always best to stick with the evidence-based approaches. Are there any other tips that you have for creating this, low EMF sleep sanctuary?
Yeah. One more thing that I would recommend is just being mindful of the overall EMF environment in your bedroom. So try to keep electronics, away from your bed. Avoid charging your phone near your head. And if you use an alarm clock, consider going a little old school and get a battery-powered one.
Oh, a battery-powered alarm clock. That's amazing. I love it. I haven't seen one of those in ages. It would definitely add a cool vintage vibe to my nightstand.
Yeah, it's a fun way to just eliminate unnecessary EMF exposure.
Right.
And who knows, maybe you'll sleep even better without that digital clock glowing all night long.
It's crazy to think that something we can't even see could have such a huge impact on our sleep. I mean, I have to admit, I'm feeling a little bit more empowered now that we've actually talked about this and uncovered some practical ways that we can actually, take back control.
Yeah, that's the beauty of knowledge, right? Once we actually understand these mechanisms, we can start to make informed choices that are going to support our well-being.
Yeah, so true. It's like we've shed light on this hidden world of EMF, and now we can navigate it a bit more consciously.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is that we've only scratched the surface when it comes to understanding the full impact of EMF on our health.
Wait, are you saying there could be even more to this story?
Absolutely. We know this much about how EMF affects our sleep. It makes you wonder what other subtle impacts we might be overlooking in this increasingly tech-filled world.
That is a really thought-provoking question. It really makes you pause and consider the bigger picture.
Yeah, it's just a good reminder that we are constantly interacting with these invisible forces and energies, and those interactions can have a really profound effect on our physical and mental health.
Wow, this deep dive has really been a huge eye-opener for me. I think I'm definitely going to be a lot more mindful of my EMF exposure from now on, especially when it comes to my sleep.
I encourage you to, and everyone listening, to do the same. Start implementing even just a few of those strategies that we talked about today. You'll be surprised how much better you can sleep when you prioritize that restful, low EMF environment.
Yeah, absolutely. And if this deep dive has sparked your curiosity, remember there's a whole world of really fascinating information out there. So keep learning and keep questioning and keep taking those steps to create a healthier, more harmonious relationship with the tech that's all around us.
Well said. Sweet dreams, everyone.